Well, more than 4 years ago, when I was appointed sheriff, one of the first things I did, I read the Florida Attorney General's report on hate crimes in the state of Florida for 2006. And at that time, it said that Broward County was the most diverse county in the state of Florida. But disappointingly, it also said that Broward County led the state in hate crimes. And to me, that was diametrically opposed. How could you be the most diverse but yet have the most hate crimes? That means tolerance, we don't get along with one another, and that was something that, you know, we should never have been proud of. And we said, we're not going to be proud of that. We're not going to tolerate it. We're not going to have Broward County lead the state of Florida. Well, unfortunately, for 3 years, we did lead the state of Florida. But I knew something had to be done. And at that time, I created the Hate Crimes Anti-Bias Task Force, first time for the Broward Sheriff's Office, and one of the few in the state of Florida. And that was under the command of Captain Rick Wisbicki. And Rick is here with me behind me. This has truly been a collaborative effort in this task force, and it has worked wonders. So now, just this week, is the 2011 Hate Crimes in Florida report released by the Florida Attorney General. This task force has really made a lot of strides, and with this report, I'm happy to report that Florida is no longer #1 in hate crimes. We have dropped to #5 in the state and had made some great progress. And who knew 4 years later that the Broward Sheriff's Office Hate Crimes Task Force would not only be recognized not only locally and statewide, but nationally as well. And I'm proud that we are the leading law enforcement agency in the United States combating hate, fear, and bias. With me are some of the partners that have helped us achieve these great successes. To my left, Robert Boo from the Pride Center in Wilton Manors. Robert Tannen from the Anti-Defamation League. Fran Esposito from the Broward Partnership for the Homeless. Mike Long from the Broward Partnership for the Homeless. And Representative Ari Porth, our state representative here in Broward County. You know, then we had the incident with Norris Gaynor, that homeless veteran beaten to death in Esplanade Park by a bunch of thugs. And then Captain Wisbicki came to me and said, you know what? Maryland just became the first state in the United States to include homelessness in their hate crime statute. And they used our case as a predicate and grounds for doing it. And I said, how could that be? Another state uses our case to incorporate it into their hate crime statute. Why aren't we doing that? And Captain Wisbicki got together with myself and Representative Porth and said, we're not going to let another state use our case and we not do it. And then came the infamous House Bill 11 that Representative Porth sponsored. Everybody across the country knows what House Bill 11 is and what it did. It incorporated homelessness into the Florida hate crime statute. That was monumental. Well, also that just was released, the National Coalition for the Homeless in December, last month, released their annual Hate Crimes Against the Homeless report. It was another shocking statistic when I was first appointed that Florida led the country in crimes against the homeless. Even though we were 4th in population, we led the country. And cases like Norris Gaynor needed to be addressed. When we passed that statute, thanks to Representative Porth, House Bill 11, everybody wondered, how did you do that? The National Coalition for the Homeless came to us and asked us, could we help? How were we able to do that? Again, Florida no longer has the distinction and I'm proud to say we are no longer #1. Once again, crimes against the homeless have plummeted, and we are also listed as #5 along the states, among all the states, falling from #1. In this report, the National Coalition for the Homeless credits the Broward Sheriff's Office for taking the lead in 2010 with the passage of House Bill 11 in protecting Florida's homeless, as well as on a federal level to include hate crimes, homeless statistics being collected by the FBI. But they feel that, and they talk about in this report, that that bill directly led to the dramatic attacks on the homeless in Florida in the past year. As a result of these two initiatives, Captain Wisbicki and I were asked to represent the nation's law enforcement community, the only law enforcement agency to be asked to testify before the U.S. Senate Judiciary Committee. It was historic that they had a hearing on crime and drugs, crimes against the homeless. The National Coalition report also quotes portions of Captain Wisbicki's testimony in their annual report. And they list our Crime Stoppers hate crimes poster about how successful that was, and the Power to Pass video that we did in conjunction with the Broward Partnership for the Homeless, specifically on House Bill 11. They have asked us to help with other states, and already we're conferring with New Mexico to do the same thing. This past summer, the United States House of Representatives, led by Congressman Alcee Hastings, held a congressional subcommittee meeting and town hall meetings on hate crimes and crimes against the homeless. Captain Wisbicki and I were then also asked to testify during that town hall meeting to speak to the community and how we could curb violent attacks on homeless who were targeted just because of the way they lived. Again, I cannot tell you how proud I am of this agency's accomplishments over the past 4 years dealing with homelessness and hate crimes in Broward County. You know, there have been some political criticism that this agency doesn't do enough for the homeless. And I categorically dispute that. And these reports prove that the Broward Sheriff's Office over the past 5 years has been the leading agency in dealing with homelessness and hate crimes. When I was first appointed, there were 400 homeless individuals in the Broward County Jail. We were the de facto provider of homeless services in Broward County. At our last count, there were 3. That's a savings to the taxpayer, and it's all because of partnerships with BPHI that we're able to do that. These individuals don't belong in jail. It's expensive, and they don't get the services that they need. So I'm proud that we took those initiatives 5 years ago. I want to give these other people an opportunity. They are great partners. First, I want to bring up Captain Rick Wisbicki, the commander of the Anti-Bias Hate Crimes Task Force. Rick?
Thanks, Sheriff. I just want to talk a little bit about hate crimes and crimes against the homeless. One of the key elements in the hate crimes is getting the victim to come forward. A lot of times they're scared, they're in fear, they're hurt. And I think one of our proudest accomplishments is the culture of this organization in dealing with all victims, including hate crimes victims and the homeless. I think Sheriff Lamberti set the tone that we treat them with respect and dignity, and I think that's one of the biggest accomplishments, because I can tell you in other parts of the state, I've been fortunate to travel in the state and nationally, and when you bring up hate crimes or homeless to law enforcement, different sheriffs and police chiefs, it's like a taboo subject. They kind of bury their head in the sand a little bit. And I'm really proud of what we've done and the men and women I work with at BSO, because to be recognized on a national level, I think is unprecedented. But I really need to mention something about the hate crimes, because it's kind of a double-edged sword, because Yeah, we didn't want to be number one, but you know, we're out there in the community. We've distributed thousands of this flyer and poster on hate crimes, and we encourage people to come forward. And again, that's really critical in hate crimes and crimes against the homeless, because again, they're scared. A lot of times they're scared of they may be illegal. The victim, you know, may be outed. So it's really a credit again to our deputies and the people I work with here at BSO. But one of the things, and I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus, but you really need to look at that Attorney General's report. We're proud of what we report, but you look at the City of Miami Police Department, I looked and they have not reported a hate crime in the last 6 years. Coincidence? I don't know, but again, I'm just throwing that out there because you really need to look at it because we're proud of what we do. Crimes against the homeless, it's so important to investigate these crimes because the crimes against the homeless are more violent than other groups categorized in the Florida hate crime statute. Research shows that the attackers view the homeless as subhuman, as they have nowhere to go, they have no protection, and nowhere to retreat. The National Coalition of the Homeless does a terrific job of documenting these crimes. And in the last 11 years, they've documented about 1,400 serious crimes, violent crimes against the homeless. We've been asked to help Senator-elect Bill O'Neill from the state of New Mexico. He plans on filing hate crime legislation in that state within the next month or so. Again, this is my last day at BSO, but I talked to the sheriff and we're gonna move forward. It's something that we really believe in. We're gonna contact the Florida Sheriff's Association and National Sheriff's Association, and we're gonna continue our efforts, again, because we're passionate, and it's really the right thing to do to help a group of people who are really down and out and really need law enforcement's help, and we're proud to do it. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Robert Boo with the Pride Center at Equality Park, and for the last 20 years we've tried to provide a safe and welcoming space to the LGBTQ community. And it's only with the partnerships with the BSO and particularly Al Lamberti and Rick Wierzbicki that we're able to accomplish that. So on behalf of the LGBTQ community, I thank you for helping to make Broward County a much safer space over the last many years.
Thanks, Robert. Appreciate it. Thank you for your help. Robert?
Sure. Thank you, Sheriff. My name is Robert Tannen. I'm from the Anti-Defamation League's Florida office. I'm the Associate Regional Director, and I'd like to echo the comments of my esteemed colleague here. The ADL believes that hate crimes and issues of hate incidents are of the utmost importance to our community. The Broward Sheriff's Office, for the last several years, has certainly understood the unfortunate impact that it causes, not just on the individual that the crime is perpetrated against, but more generally, more broadly, the wider community that that person represents. That's why hate crimes are so incredibly important to pay attention to. We could not certainly do the work that we do at the ADL without our law enforcement partnerships around the state and around the country. I'm very proud to say that we've had a top-notch, top-level, high-level working relationship with the Broward Sheriff's Office for all the years that the Sheriff and Captain Wierzbicki has been here. We've held annual conferences on institutional security to help secure religious institutions in the county. The last one actually was even held right here in this building. So we've really certainly appreciate the work that you've done, Sheriff, and that you've done, Captain, for all those years, and we're looking forward to continuing that partnership in the future here in Broward County and beyond. So thank you, Sheriff.
I appreciate it. Yeah,
Captain.
Fran.
Fran Esposito, CEO for Broward Partnership for the Homeless, and that's exactly the word, a partnership. This legislation was the right thing at the right time for the right reasons, the most impactful piece of legislation to affect how the homeless are treated, not just locally, but now nationally. And we were very proud to be a part of it and very proud to give our campus an opportunity for the sheriff and the captain and their officers to engage with the homeless, to get to know them a little bit better and to better understand their vulnerabilities. Thank you.
That's right. Thank you. And you know, there's so many legislative priorities in the state of Florida, and you know, to try to get something through the legislature, again, with so many priorities is difficult. And I can tell you, for 4 years, it was tried to get House Bill 11, you know, through the legislature. And when we first proposed it, everybody said, you're wasting your time, it'll never happen. Why do you say that? Well, for 4 years, a legislator has sponsored it, and it's died. It never got anywhere. And my response to that was, you know what? I haven't tried. And so we tried, and again, I just want to publicly thank Representative Ari Porth, because when we went to him, you know, I told him, you know, Ari, it's been tried 4 times, and it's never been successful. Representative Porth, I just want to thank you, number one, for the courage, okay? In spite of the 4 failures, we agreed we're going to succeed this time, and you weren't afraid of it, and it was really, really a great partnership, and just want to thank you for your courage in proposing it for the 5th time, and the 5th time was magical, thanks to you, your willingness to make it a priority, because up until then it wasn't a priority, but you made it a priority. Thank you. And any questions from anybody?
I've got a question.
Yes, sir.
Sheriff. You said that you dropped from number 1 to number 5.
Yes.
That's nationally?
Yeah, both on homeless?
Yes.
Yes, and also the same thing on hate crimes in the state of Florida. We went from number 1 county in Florida to number 5.
Now, do you believe that that number would have fallen further if you didn't have such a successful program? I mean, once you tell people, you alert them to the fact that this is a crime, then you get more participation from civilians. So
Yep.
you think that would have dropped more, given the fact that, you know, your program is so
Yeah.
successful?
Yes, well, and here it is. It's very similar to domestic violence. When you're out there educating the public, we want you to call. We don't want you to be afraid to call, because previously sometimes people are afraid to call. That's why when you see 0, you have to be skeptical. That kind of tells me people might be afraid to call. And our initial emphasis, and it happens in domestic violence, when you educate people, we want you to call, usually the crimes go up, because now they're reporting crimes that had not been reported. But then you have to attack what are the causes. And that's what we saw exactly. It went up, but now it's dropped. Because the deterrent factor, people know we're going to prosecute it. Our theory on hate crimes is a lot different than other agencies. We assume and presume it's a hate crime and then work to prove that it's not. A lot of other agencies, they'll look at the case and work upwards to try to prove that it is. We take the direct opposite approach. We try to prove that it's not a hate crime rather than to try to prove that it is. So we've cut them in half. It went from 11 last year, or in 2010, to 6. But that's, again, I think that's the deterrent factor, the fact that we're prosecuting people in the Norris Gaynor case that beat him up in Esplanade Park. We vigorously prosecuted those people thanks to the state attorney's office in Broward.
Do you think we can expect the sheriff's department to pursue these cases with the same vigor in the 4 years going forward as in the 4 previous?
I hope so, but I don't know. You know, I can't comment on that. You're going to have to ask the next administration on that. I hope so. But again, I didn't want the release of these 2 reports, which just came out this week. I didn't want the opportunity to go by to not let everyone know this is a result of a lot of hard work over the past 5 years. First, you have to recognize there's a problem. If you don't recognize there's a problem, how are you going to find a solution? So that's what, you know, I'm here to talk about today, is what we've done over the past 5 years. More work needs to be done. You can't give up, otherwise it'll just go back to where it was.
Can you really even compare the numbers of hate crimes between jurisdictions when, as you pointed out, they define hate crimes differently, and in reality, some just don't seem to report any. So what's the value of any comparison?
Well, you have to, and that's valid. You have to know what's going on in your community. But as diverse as South Florida is, and I'm talking about Dade, Broward, Palm Beach, you have to assume it's going on, because again, the 2006 report was pretty indicative that there was a problem. You can't be the most diverse, but yet lead the state. And that was the thing that triggered it for me, is those 2 don't drive. That means we need to do something. It's about education. It's about the kids. It's about, you know, our community. Crime statistics are tricky. You know, you have to try to read into them and try to figure out, yeah, what do you think is happening here? You're right. But from jurisdiction to jurisdiction, they are treated differently. Like I said, we want people to come forward. And sometimes that creates a spike, an increase. If you don't encourage people to come forward, sure, you're going to have a low number. But when you Start high, and then you show the reduction, and you have programs in place, and partnerships in place, and legislation in place. Those have an impact, and that's what these reports said. The efforts legislatively had an impact. The efforts in the community, get them out of the jail, into BPHI and other programs, have an impact. And that's what these reports are saying. It's not just about the numbers. It's about what's behind the numbers.
Do you know, do most or all states now include sexual orientation and hate crime definition?
It's now federal legislation with Matthew Shepard, James Boyd federal hate crimes legislation. So it's there federally. Whether other states choose to follow suit, that's a legislative issue. But here's what we did by going to the Senate and testifying in the Senate. We wanted them to include homelessness in the federal statute, just like we have done here in Florida, and like sexual orientation has already been included in the federal statutes. They didn't go all the way, but what they did do, they directed the FBI, thanks to Congressman Debbie Wasserman Schultz, her effort in her committee directed the FBI to begin collecting statistics on assaults against the homeless. That was not required before. But because of our effort, being the only law enforcement agency testifying in Congress, that now the FBI is directed to do that, to see what the scope of the problem is. And our goal is, if the statistics back it up, as corroborated by the FBI, I think it'll demonstrate that there is a problem in the United States on assaults against the homeless. And hopefully that will lead, that data will lead to it being included in the federal hate crime statute. That's what I would like to see.
Do you believe, because everything now, just to give a comparison, now that DC is about budgets, and you've had some whopper of budget issues down here with the commission and so forth. Do you think, in hindsight, you might have been able to promote it better if the public had known how you had transitioned the corrections facilities from being a warehouse for homeless people? When you said something about having 400 at one point, down to 3 now. You know, people only think about the pocketbook.
Yeah, right.
Do you think the public missed how well a job you did in that?
You know, maybe it's not a glamorous topic, but it does save the taxpayers money. And when we had to do the budget cuts, at one point, $60 million in 1 year, 60% of the BSO budget is the jail. So we looked at what's the jail population comprised of. And when we had to do those massive budget cuts, we looked at it costs $118 a day to keep somebody in the Broward County Jail. So those 400 homeless individuals, by getting them out of jail into community programs where it costs about $40 a day to take care of homeless people in the community, that's a huge savings to the taxpayer. So you really don't even have to cut your budget. You could just move those people out of your custody into the community, into programs, and it's a natural tax savings. And so that's why we went from 400 to, again, last count was 3.
Well, weren't those programs there before? Why weren't they getting help from those programs?
Again, it takes a partnership. It's about leadership. Nobody ever looked at that 400 homeless people that are sitting in the jail.
What do you mean they were homeless? You mean like they couldn't afford a small amount to bond
Yes,
out? Or
correct.
what? So
Yes.
that's the only reason
Yes,
they were really
they
there.
couldn't afford bond.
Minor crime.
It was a minor crime: shoplifting, urinating in the public, sleeping in the public, drinking in public, public intoxication. These were crimes with $50 bonds, and they couldn't make the bond, and they had no place to be. But how would you rather spend your money? $118 a day with me at the Broward County Jail, or $40 a day with Fran Esposito at the Broward Partnership for the Homeless? Just from a purely taxpayer standpoint, that's a no-brainer. They belong with her, not with me. In fact, we talked about that at our first screening. Anything else for any of these folks?
I mean, why end on this note, barring something bad over the next couple days? This will probably be your last press conference. Is this any hint of what you're going to be doing next?
No, I just wanted to, like we spoke, get the word out to the community that it's ironic that these both came out, you know, this week. And that's traditionally when they come out. It's nothing new. But I think we need to call attention to it. Again, it reflects on what we've done the past 5 years. And so, yeah, this is probably my last press conference just because of timing, because Monday's my last day. I think it's a great note to end on because I think it's reflective of everything that we've done over the past 5 years. It's about, again, identifying problems and creating solutions.
It's also Captain Wazooki said it was his last day.
Today's his last day.
So we'll have to ask the incoming sheriff if he intends to continue this task force. I mean, the task force hasn't been disbanded.
No. Well,
what happens to it when there's a transition of leadership?
You know, that's something, you know, the incoming sheriff sets priorities. And just like I did with the gun squad, because we had any crime was going down, but gun violence was going up, so we created the gun squad, our firearms investigations unit. When I looked at these reports in 2006, we never had a hate crimes task force before. And so in response to that, Captain Wazbicki, I asked him to start this up and get it going. So we partner with the municipalities, the federal agencies, the U.S. Attorney's Office, State Attorney's Office. Again, so I think it's been successful.
Can you describe the task force for me? I mean, is it a set number of officers?
It's working
with this group?
It's working with the regularly assigned detectives. When there's a crime that comes up, you know, and there's any indication that it's racial, that it's religious, that it's sexual orientation, and those are the three top, race, religion, sexual orientation, are the top three criteria on hate crimes. We want those detectives to know, hey, you have resources at your disposal to help you with your investigation. And that's where Captain Wazbicki would come in, work with those detectives and let them know, hey, here's an avenue that you can go, you know, let's work on this. And again, we've had a lot of cases that we looked at with that attitude of we're going to prove that it's not rather than it is. The first reaction for some people, this is a hate crime. But working at that attitude, you know, we proved that no, it was a robbery. And so, you know, that's where we worked at. Just an extra resource to the detectives that are already there.
Sorry. I've known you for a while and been to a lot of press conferences with you. Everyone knows about your integrity and how hard you work. BSO has been, in short, reshaped under your leadership. Mm-hmm. There are those of us, media friends of mine, who find it hard to believe that this is it for you. 4 years goes by in a blink of an eye. Would you consider, do you think about it? Return, this house is almost what Lamberti built. So give us an idea.
Well, you know, obviously that's a loaded question. And I commend you for sneaking it in. But you know what, effective Tuesday, I'm going to be back where I was when I started, a citizen of Broward County. The time commitment in this job is huge. Everybody says it, and it sounds corny sometimes, that, you know, they're looking forward to spending time with their family. But I sacrificed 5 years, a lot of time with my wife and my son. And so I'm looking forward to, you know, catching up on some lost time. And that's really all I'm focused on. I won't be the sheriff effective Tuesday. 35 years for me was a great, great accomplishment. Being the first to ever come up through the ranks, you know, that to me, I'm proud of that, you know, and that's what I try to prove, that somebody could do it. And so, you know, I don't have any regrets. I'm comfortable in what we've achieved and what we've accomplished. We took an agency that was, you know, in a lot of turmoil. It was very turbulent times. And I think we steadied the ship and we got it going in the right direction, and we accomplished a lot. And again, that's what's so important about these reports. They say it. It's not just me saying it. These are national organizations and the Attorney General's office saying it. So they're validating what I'm saying. But, you know, when it comes from me, sometimes it's taken with a grain of salt, that I'm doing it for a political reason. But these are two, the Florida Attorney General's office and the National Coalition on the Homeless. You know, they said it best, and they said what I want the people to know, what we've accomplished the past 5 years.
Do you have any plans to like start your own security firm, like a job with the state? Those have been the two rumors.
Well, I still tell people I'm going to apply to be the director of the CIA and see where that goes. So.
Don't they usually come to you? Chief, Sheriff, but honestly, I mean, this is a big part of your legacy. Would you just say a little bit about, you know, how you hope people will remember your tenure as sheriff and what you're most proud of? I mean, you did mention your accomplishments and what you've achieved, but.
Well, for me, it was never political, because I said, you know, when I was a deputy on the road, when I came to your house, you dialed 911, you never asked me what was on my voter's card. It was about serving the community. And I tell people that the most valuable lesson I learned in my life was from my mom. You're here to serve, not be served. And she actually wanted me to be a priest growing up. And I said, well, I'm going to go into law enforcement. And she's 84 years old, still hasn't accepted it. But I tell her, I said, Mom, when people are at their lowest, who do they call? They call their clergy or they call the police. And I'm just taking the second one. So again, it's been about, you know, serving this community for the past 35 years. And I tell people, you know, when you get to this point, I've spent more than half my life at the Broward Sheriff's Office. But bottom line is, I've always said at the beginning, this is not the Al Lamberti Sheriff's Office. It's the Broward County Sheriff's Office. It belongs to the people of Broward County. You only sit in the sheriff's chair for a certain amount of time. But without people behind me, you can't accomplish anything by yourself. You have to have partners like the people that are behind me. And that's what I'm most proud of, because Tuesday when I walk out of here, I know I can still call these folks. They have my cell phone number, I have their cell phone number. I look forward to staying involved in the community, because their work is not done. And, you know, I've said it, I'm at everybody's disposal, and, but again, you know, they're the reason for a lot of the accomplishments, because they make sure. What's that?
You'll be staying local. You said you look forward to getting involved in the community.
Well, you know, I live here, my son, my family's still here, so, you know.
Sheriff, can I have one more thing? Yeah. Just want to add one more thing. Actually, it's a thank you to the media. One of our most successful initiatives in the last 4 years was help making the movie Bullied, a student, a school, a case that made history. And the media really sent the message out how important this film was. We were the only law enforcement agency, and Sheriff Lamberti was the only sheriff to help fund the movie, produce the movie. First year, we had hoped to distribute 25,000 copies. And first year, they had about 85,000 requests for the movie through the Southern Poverty Law Center. And it's really credit to the print media, the television media, Eye on South Florida, that the message came across. And I really have to thank you, and that's on behalf of the Southern Poverty Law Center, too. So thank you.
And it was forfeiture money that we used to pay for the movie.
Foundation.
Oh,
Foundation.
Foundation. There you go. Not taxpayer money. All right. Very good. Thank you very much. Appreciate the time. Yeah, thanks.